but kind enough to join us today to talk about the Steelers. Publisher of CBS Sports, Steel City Insider, and author of the new book. It's called On the Clock, Pittsburgh Steelers at the NFL Draft, is Jim Wexell. Jim, welcome. Nice to have you on the program. Tell us about the book.
Thanks for having me, Tom. It's a history book of Steelers draft picks, what they were thinking when they went into drafts, how they got guys, what guys they passed up, things like that. And it's perfect for right now. History lessons are very important. I don't know if you feel the Churchillian at all, but
yes,
we should learn from history. A lot of the young guys, they tell me, don't think about the past. It's a different game. But I'm thinking of the '87 draft with the Steelers when they rebuilt the secondary and got a couple linebackers, Greg Lloyd, Hardy Nickerson, and Rod Woodson and Thomas Everett and Delton Hall. And so in honor of Dick Haley, the passing of Dick Haley, that was his first draft with the Steelers. So I'm looking at a historical lesson from 1987 for this Steelers draft.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, the current Steelers here a little bit, because they named a new general manager in Omar Khan a little more than a year ago. Some of his moves, maybe right from the get-go, were not all that great. He seems like he's been on a pretty good roll here lately. What are your thoughts about his first year plus on the job?
Okay, well, I don't want to dampen Omar's psyche. I'm doing this with Steeler fans too, but Tomlin runs the team. The head coach in Pittsburgh runs the team.
Well, he should. He never loses.
No, Omar did things like the Allen Robinson trade.
Yeah.
The fine points of a deal like that where they redid his contract. We just got updated news on the Allen Robinson trade. For basically a swap of seventh rounders, 17, and the Rams paid $10 million of the $15 million. So the Steelers owe $5 million for this year, and assuming they were going to cut him loose because the next year was $15 million, the Rams redid the contract. It was just announced today that the Steelers got that done too, so they could possibly keep him next year for $10 million. And at least they can take some of that $5 million from this year and move half of it to next year on a bonus. So that's all Omar. I mean, he's been a whiz with numbers, and now he's finding forgotten players such as Allen Robinson that are needy in a Jericho Cotchery kind of way. If you're a Pittsburgh, if you have to be an avid Pittsburgh fan to remember Jericho Cotchery from 2011. They picked him up. He was a slot guy, big-bodied slot guy, took care of a young room of receivers, and that's exactly what Allen Robinson's going to do with this team.
All right. Look, very quietly, maybe outside of the Peterson acquisition, quietly, they've gone out, the Steelers have. They've brought in 10 free agents. They've signed 4 of their own free agents. Yes, some guys have walked out the door. 6 of the guys they brought in, it looks like they're going to be starters on day one. You throw in this Robinson trade. At the end of the day, as we sit here today pre-draft, are the Steelers a better team than the team that ended the season a year ago?
They are. I really like the Patrick Peterson. I seem to like it more than anybody else. I know he's up there in age, but speaking of 1987 history and me probably covering this team for too long, Rod Woodson left and became a pretty good free safety for the Baltimore Ravens and the Oakland Raiders, and played in 2 Super Bowls, won a ring as a free safety. Patrick Peterson is all up for that kind of talk. And Tomlin has already talked about moving him around. I envision him as the outside corner, and whichever first-round pick, second-round pick they bring in as a corner, which is inevitable, Peterson goes inside. And Tomlin said, maybe some safety work, not just nickel corner, but safety work. And Peterson's all up for that. So I want that Rod Woodson thing to come full circle here because the Steelers really lost on a guy there.
When you look, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong here now, I think it's the Steelers have 4 of the top 80 picks. Is that right?
Four of the top 80, yes. 3 of the top 49. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. There's been some talk. No, I want to start here. There's been some talk that they might be interested. They've had conversations with Chicago about moving up to 9, because most people believe, and you tell me if this is correct or incorrect in your opinion, most people feel like they got to get one of these big dominant tackles, that they got to have one of these top 3 guys, right? And if you're waiting around to pick where they're picking now at, I think, 17, the guy's not going to be there. Do you think they ultimately make a deal and move up? Should they move up?
Man, going back to history lessons, Leon Searcy was a number 11 pick for them, and he was a right tackle. I tell you right now, they can get their left tackle is just finished his second year, played every game. Their right tackle is making $10 million. Chukwuekorfor, he's okay. He's 26. They're both young. They're both experienced. Dan Moore, the left tackle, still has room to improve. I don't consider it a real need. The real need is the third offensive tackle. Now, I don't know that a third offensive tackle can be found later in the draft. There are some names. I'm hearing the Pitt has a tackle, so they know the local kid. But yeah, Darnell Wright is the guy who interests me. And you assume a right tackle could fall to number 17, especially when everybody's talking Paris Johnson and Skoronski and Broderick Jones. Those are all left tackles. So trading up, I think I would trade up for Paris Johnson, but not Broderick Jones, and probably not a right tackle. Although history tells me Leon Searcy, pick number 11, Bill Cowher's first pick, did not play as a rookie at all, and then was a Super Bowl right tackle and the lead guy on their outstanding running game against the Cowboys in the '95 Super Bowl. So I have no problem with Darnell Wright, but I'd hate to trade up for a right tackle. Trade up for a left tackle.
All right. Well, with 40 picks, if they don't move in the top 80, what areas need most to be addressed with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, they need a third tackle. All these positions, they need a third guy. Cornerback could maybe start opposite Patrick Peterson. I think Patrick Peterson's going to start. I know he's old, but I think he's going to start. And Levi Wallace is the other corner, a guy who's been a backup everywhere and then steps in and does an admirable job as a starter. People are always trying to replace Levi Wallace, but I think he's serviceable. But that's the one position that probably a rookie could start. At least on sub packages, he comes in and plays outside and Pat Peterson moves inside. Otherwise, you're looking at a third offensive tackle is needed and a third outside linebacker and a third inside linebacker. And, boy, you're looking to replace Cam Hayward at some point. He's 34 years old. So they would hope for a defensive tackle. But, again, they don't need him to start. But cornerback is the only half starter. Let's call him a half starter, sub-package starter.
Did we lose him?
No, I think he's here.
Oh, okay. I thought we lost him there a second. So there's your area. When Steeler fans, and there's been such incredible success with that franchise, one of the all-time great franchises in all of professional sports. You know, you build up expectations when you win like the Steelers have for a long, long time. Looking at the Bengals, looking at the Ravens, looking at the Browns. Do Steeler fans have reason for optimism they can contend in the AFC North?
Well, the fans do. I don't necessarily, but I mean, somebody just ran down their young lineup of offensive skill players. Very interesting, very talented. He had some defense in his draft, and Pickett makes monumental strides. I like Pickett, but I think it's 2-3 years away. That's why my point this year has been just if it's a pass rusher, even though you have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, if it's a pass rusher you think is the best player at 17, take him, because this is a 2-3 year down the road. Really, the Bengals are the team. You look at the Ravens are really languishing with their quarterback issue. If you read Daniel Jeremiah's transcript with the media yesterday, the Baltimore people they want a plan to replace Jackson, and Jeremiah is saying, hey, you bring in a guy too soon, then you're going to ruin negotiations for Lamar Jackson next year. So it seems like they have a real mess brewing on their hands. And the Browns, I don't know what to say about the Browns, but I think the Bengals are clearly the class of this division, and the Steelers have a puncher's chance, but more so down the road, 2-3 years when Pickett gets a little more experience.
Now, I got to tell you, Jim, I got friends of mine that I went to college with at Ohio University in Pittsburgh. They're born and raised Pittsburgh guys, and I love them with all my heart and soul and every fiber in my body. And they love their Steelers. But I got to tell you, I talk to them regularly, and they tell me, I've heard it more and more and more and more. You know, you go look at the numbers on Tomlin, and you're looking at 163 wins against just 93 losses. That's a winning percentage of .640, which is just astounding. Been to the playoffs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, but has not won a playoff game since 2016. I mean, you know where I'm going here, right? This guy's a great coach. But we just had Howard Eskin on a little while ago, and he was hearkening back to the Andy Reid days. And he made the comment, the Andy Reid days in Philadelphia, and his opinion was, hey, look, you know, sooner or later, the run is going to come to an end for multiple reasons. Where are the fans? Where are the Steelers with Mike Tomlin right now?
Doesn't seem like he's really well liked here because of the playoff thing. He didn't win with Ben and AB and Le'Veon Bell. I liken this situation that he just went through 10 years of what Don Shula went through with Dan Marino's last 10 years. Marino was veteran, good enough, great enough to get them over 500 and keep them out of top 10 draft picks every year while they were rebuilding. That was a great defense of the aughts. Let's call it the aughts. 05 champions, 08 champions, and 10. They were in the Super Bowl in 2010. That defense needed totally rebuilt, and the offensive line needed rebuilt. Then they got the skill players in, and just because those skill players put up great stats didn't mean they had any cornerbacks not named Josh Valentine and Artie Burns, and you know, they just average draft pick was 24. And Ben, I give a lot of that record. I love Tomlin as a coach, but I give a lot of that record to Ben Roethlisberger. Get him over 500, good enough to get over 500, good enough quarterback to get over a hump, but you needed 1 or 2 years of top 10 drafting. Look what the Bengals got when they drafted number 1. They got a quarterback we're going to be talking about him like Marino and Ben someday. So that's my situation. They just were never good enough to get over the hump, even though they had a great coach and a great quarterback. And so I just look at the Dan Marino effect with Shula, too. Shula couldn't win with Dan Marino because he just couldn't get those high draft picks.
You know, it's so interesting I know, but it's really interesting you bring that up because there is a price to be paid. And look, the NFL sets it up this way, right? There's a price to be paid for winning and winning and winning and winning. And you talked about Omar Khan and being a wizard with numbers, and Howie Roseman is very similar in Philadelphia about, you know, bringing in veteran guys and taking chances on guys, kind of like Omar's doing with the Steelers. You got to get very, very creative because you're not going to build Super Bowl champions on the 23rd, 24th, 28th, 30th picks for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in a row.
Well, the other thing, Tom, is quarterback salary when you have one of those franchise guys. And even though Ben was very, very good, I don't know that he was as elite as some of the young quarterbacks coming up with spring in their step, but he was getting paid an elite level out of loyalty. A lot of it was loyalty, and a lot of it was intelligence. I mean, you have to have a quarterback. But, man, that chews up your salary cap. And the Bengals are going to find out about that. I don't know how their stadium helps them financially. Probably well enough. It's a not great stadium. But you would know better than I'm just going on stereotype. The Bengals have a reputation for being cheap. So it's going to be something when you have to see really good players leave because your quarterback's making so much money and you're not getting high draft picks. So it's a tough situation. It's a tough situation.
Yeah. Well, Jim, we cannot thank you enough for your time. Graciously so. Very, very much. And let's stay in contact. We'll see what happens moving forward. We'd love to have you back once the season kicks off and the Bengalis and the Steelers get together a couple of times.
Well, that'd be awesome, Tom. Thank you so much. And just you mentioned Ohio University. I just slipped out of my Ohio U T-shirt. My daughter went there. She was an all-MAC goalkeeper last 2 years. So
in soccer,
I'm very proud of her. Yeah, soccer.
Was she really? Congratulations.
All-MAC. Thank you. And last year they lost to Miami, Ohio in the playoffs, 1-0, and that ended her career. And I was really proud of her. So I had the Ohio U shirt on, but I just looked too sloppy in it. It's a T-shirt.
No, Jim, on this show you can wear anything Ohio University. It can have holes in it. It makes no difference whatsoever. I'm just disappointed you had to bring up her career ending against Miami of Ohio. That might be the only thing Miami has ever beaten Ohio University in is one game, 1-0. Congratulations to your daughter.
It was a great game. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate being on your show.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much. Jim